Hello, my friends. Welcome. It's Sunday, June 6th. Thank you. I'm using a new earpiece today, so I may sound a little funky. Don't mind me. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to see you. We're going to wait on people to stream in as usual. We have the early birds. And then we sometimes have the ones who take their time to come in, and we're a little bit late today. We're 1.5 minutes late today. And that's 1.5 minutes too late, because we're committed to doing this consistently on time. So again, Henry, as usual, on time, my man. Hey, Kimberly, how are you? It's good to see you. Today, we're waiting on our Instagram friends to join. We're setting that up. We're waiting on our Facebook friends to join. We'll be setting that up in a second. But it's good to see you guys. Hey, Danisa, it's a pleasure to see you. Yes. We have a great group. We have a really interesting show today. And I'll tell you, I often like to talk about some of the things that are happening in our world. Before I jump in. And one of the things that happened this week, it actually happened, I think, early yesterday, our time, I think the day before in Lagos, Nigeria, which was when, hey, Dale, hey, Denise, did you realize that a couple of days ago, Nigeria just banned Twitter? I mean, how does that happen? They banned there's 32 million people in Nigeria who use Twitter, and we just banned Twitter. We joined the enviable, for lack of a better word, group that includes 4 countries: China, Iran, North Korea, and Turkmenistan, and then Nigeria. How does that work? A democratically elected government bans their country from communicating with each other and the outside world. Why did this happen? I'll tell you why. Because the president, one of the president's posts was deleted, the President Buhari. His post was deleted because he basically gave a veiled threat, on Twitter against some people who in the the Southeast are basically trying to take their power back, maybe not doing it in the way that we would normally recommend. And I'll tell you, that stems from, burning of police buildings, police stations, and also things that are happening in the Southeast. The origins of those issues are that the police, sometimes have gotten, out of hand. In Africa, in many places, especially in Nigeria, they extort. In some cases, they extort, people for money, and they treat people very badly. There's a lot of corruption in the police force, and they have these checkpoints, and they pull you over, and they just want money. It's basically robbing citizens. And so some of these citizens in the Southeast, the Igbos, my brothers and sisters, they're taking their power back, and they're, unfortunately, they're doing it in a way that, we don't necessarily endorse. They're destroying police stations, they're destroying property, they're, hurting people, in some cases. And, that's the part we don't, whenever it comes to violence and burning property and hurting people, that's not a good thing. We don't endorse that. There's better ways to do it. There's better ways: civil disobedience, having conversations, engaging outside forces, people, outside governments to put pressure. And I'll tell you, so they're trying to take their power back, and the president basically went on air to talk about them, and to, in many ways, there was a veiled threat in what he said, and like Twitter did for our own president in the U.S. They threw him off, and he gets mad, and the country basically bans 32 million Nigerians from speaking. Also, Jack Dorsey, who's he's the head of Twitter. He's the CEO of Twitter. During the End SARS movement, which is the demonstration for against official corruption, a terrible force called SARS. which happened a few months ago. A lot of people were killed in Nigeria by the government, by the police, when they were demonstrating. Jack Dorsey was very active in supporting the government. Against the government, in supporting, the demonstrators with donations and support. And I think the government didn't like that very much. So now you delete the president's tweet, so they get pissed off. And I got to tell you, I would strongly encourage our president and the people in government. This is not the way. You don't censure open discussion. We need this open discussion to raise the quality of life. And it doesn't solve the problem. What it does is just put a kibosh, like in China or like in Iran, like in North Korea, for God's sakes. What we do is we put a kibosh on an open discussion. There's a lot of problems the country has. Official corruption, the government corrupt, crumbling infrastructure, the country is falling apart, poverty, uncontrolled inflation. Those are the things we need to be focused on, not banning people from talking on social media. So I would encourage the president and the good people down there, many of the good people in office down there, to open up, leave Twitter alone. They're good. They're good. I don't use them that often, but they're good. It's a good way to communicate, and I would strongly encourage that we engage our citizens in a good discussion on how to solve the problems. But that's not why we're here to talk. That's not why I'm here to talk to you today. I have a different subject, but first, hey, Darlene, hey, Tina. My people are Christine. All right. Mary Wheat, Dell, Yvonne, Denise, Kimberly, Denise. I see all my friends. But we need some new people. You know that, right? We have thousands and thousands of people on YouTube, but we need more. We need hundreds of thousands. We need you to tell your friends and family that we're teaching you how to raise yourself from where you are. If you're in poverty, we'll raise you to the middle class. If you're in the middle class, we'll help raise you into the affluent. If you're in the affluent, we'll raise you into the wealthy. If you're in the wealthy, how about become uber wealthy? I can teach you how to do that. But today is very special to me because I want to talk about something that's very dear to my heart. And a big part of the reason why I started this show. Many of you know my background. I'm a finance guy, been so for a long time. I work with many, many wealthy people. I've helped people make millions, maybe even tens, maybe hundreds of millions. I've helped them make a lot of money, both on Wall Street, advising billion-dollar companies, and now in my personal life, in my own life, helping rich people, affluent and wealthy people, to make more money. Do we have this connected? Okay, there you go. We have it connected. And so today I want to talk about some of the key problems we face in this thing called the disparity of wealth. And I'm about to bring on soon someone who I actually admire for his, the things at a young age, the things he's done, to help heal this disparity of wealth in a very, very underserved community and the places that we're going to. But first, let me talk to you a little bit about this thing called the disparity of wealth. Many people ask me, they say, hey, what do you mean disparity of wealth? What's going on? Let's talk about it. Well, the Brookings Institute had a really good paper they wrote a few years ago on how people tend to fall into poverty. What happens? There's a lot of poor people, right, in America. How do they fall? And America is a very wealthy country. How do they fall into poverty? Well, there's a path. And I'll show you what that path is. And I'll show you how to get out of that path. And I'll show you how to break those chains. And then we'll bring on Wendell, who's my guest, who will tell us what he's doing. And we've been supporting very actively to help heal those wounds. First of all, for kids who are in these poor communities, underserved communities, underrepresented communities, many of them don't have the support up through kindergarten that middle-class families do. They just don't have the support. Mom and dad is out, mom is working, they're there, they don't have the backing, the support that they need. And so they enter kindergarten far behind the middle class. And guess what? Many times those kids never catch up. So it starts from pre-K. even before they enter the school system. Many of these kids are more likely to make very bad life-altering decisions, such as dropping out of school. Many of them do. Becoming teen parents. Many of them do. Breaking the law. We know what happens. You go to jail. Once you go to jail, your life is put on hold, basically, in America. You've lost a lot of privileges. There's lots of jobs you can't get. There's places you can't vote. You can't even own a gun. And so you're basically taken out of the American system. And many of these people make those decisions, unfortunately. In addition, many of these people join gangs. They're more likely to join gangs and either, become a victim of homicide or a perpetrator of a violent crime, which essentially gets you back in jail, which gets you back in that system. Brookings Institute mentioned 3 things that could help propel you out of poverty. They did a study that I read. And if you abide by these 3 things, let me tell you what their study shows. Of all the people who abided by these 3 things, only 2% of those people fell into poverty. 75% of those people who adopted these 3 things joined the middle class. 75%, right? Number 1, at least make sure you graduate from high school. That is so important. And I'll tell you how devastating that is, both to your psyche, to your economics, and basically to your life. And I'll tell you the things that cause people to drop out of high school. In addition, get a full-time job. It's important for you to work. And number 3, wait until you're 21 years old to get married and have children. It sounds easy, right? Oh, graduate high school, sure. Get a full-time job. Well, of course. Wait till you're 21 to get married. Most people are like, not a big deal. But there's a huge population of our children who don't do any of those 3. Let me show you something else. Let me give you some more statistics. 40% of kids in the US are born out of wedlock. And I'm going to tell you that sometimes the tough thing that being born out of wedlock, a single parent household, the impact that has on a child. And sometimes you can't avoid it. But how do you, even if you're in a single parent household, how do you help propel yourself and your child out of this, this problem? So 40% of kids in the US are born out of wedlock. 70% of Black kids are born out of wedlock. 70%. 50% of Hispanics are born out of wedlock. Let's talk about this 70% number. Let's talk about this out of wedlock number for a second, right? Let me give you some statistics. Poverty and the single family household. Let me tie them together for you, right? I'm going to show us a chart. Do you have the chart? Yeah, let me show you a chart right now. I'm going to put a chart on there, right? And this chart is a green chart. Is it on there, Alex?
Yep.
Okay. This green chart that you're looking at, if you can blow it up, if you're wherever you are, if you can blow this chart up, I want you to look at it very closely. And it ties in, when you have a 16-year-old daughter or 17-year-old daughter, 18-year-old daughter, or 19-year-old son, and they have a baby, or, they drop out of high school. Let me give you some statistics on that child, that single parent household, and how it evolves, right? The number on the left, this is a chart about, people who, by race and in total, the number of people who are in poverty, whether or not they're married, is the first number on the left, single moms and single dads. So look at that number, that's 9 on the left, that's 9%. What that means is, overall, 9% of kids whose parents are married are in poverty, on average. 9% of kids whose parents are married are in poverty. Now look at that number, 39%, right? That's right next to the 9. On the first 3 graphs, that tells you that 39% of single moms, overall, their kids live in poverty. 39% of kids in poverty have single moms. That's another way to say it. 39%, from 9% to 39%. And it's for single dads, it's 24%. In general, not having a 2-family household is one of the key metrics of poverty in America. And I'll tell you why. You know, with a two-parent household, especially when the kid is born, you know, when the mom is younger, 17, 16, 15, 19, it takes, then they don't finish household, they don't have a two-family income where there's two, they don't have the values, they don't have the maturity. And so a big part of our issues, you know, are not just our kids are not graduating from high school, they're not getting full-time jobs, they're having kids early. But when they have kids early, there's only one parent. The other parent, usually the man, takes off, which is another topic for a different day. How do we get our men to have the values necessary to keep them at home, taking care of their responsibilities? Whether you're a 16-year-old man and you have a baby, you got to take care of that baby. Or you're a 62-year-old man, you got to take care of that kid. That's a different subject. What I do want to focus on today, and I see a lot more people of my friends flowing in. Hey, Yvonne, Shawnee, how are you? Hey, Christine, good to see you guys. What I do want to chat a little bit about today is about, you know, how education plays into all of this, right? And the way education plays into it is that there are ways to break out of the what I'd call this cycle of poverty, right? There's many ways to break out of it. And one of those ways is to get an education. So let me give you some quick statistics again. We're going to put one more chart on before we jump into our guest today. I'm going to put another chart on. And basically what this chart shows you is what happens when a child doesn't graduate from high school, and then a child graduates from high school. A child gets the college degree. A child doesn't, gets an advanced degree. I'm going to show you what the numbers are. And in case you can't see that chart, in case if it's too small, Alex, can we blow it up a little bit? There you go. Here are the numbers. And I don't, on your screen, if you can blow this chart up or take a picture and blow it up, it'll show you a little bit about, normally I just talk to you. I don't show you charts, and I just, so sometimes, I know you guys all believe me, but I want to show you this chart today. This came from the Commerce Department. We thank them very much for doing the research, right? This was before I jump into that chart though, let me tell you some statistics about, again, this is all statistics, the graduation rates from high school. 2 years ago. We don't have the one for this year and last year. The average graduation rate from high school was 86%, right? Total whites, 89%. Blacks, 80%. American Indians, 74%. Can you imagine? The difference between 89% for a white kid, for whites and 80% is about 10% different for blacks. Sounds like 10%. That's 45,000 children. That's 45,000 children who didn't graduate. Imagine that. That just got lost in the shuffle. Now, let me tell you what happens when a child doesn't graduate from high school. Here's the chart. Look at that. If a child graduates from high school, they make about $32,000 on average. That's the bolded number, 32,000. If they graduate with a bachelor's degree, they make $53,000. That's 65% more just for graduating. 65% more. If they get a master's, they make $62,000. It's almost double. So why are kids not graduating from high school? Well, that's what we're here to talk about today. So to make the introductions, hey, Yvonne, I see you. Oh, sweat. I'm sweating. They told me I'm sweating over here. Whenever I'm talking about something passionate, I always tend to sweat. Plus, Alex is always trying to freeze me out over here. So it was trying to turn the heat up. I always try to turn it down. They're always trying to turn the heat up so I can sweat. They're doing it on purpose to me. Anyway, so why aren't kids graduating from high school? Why do we have this generation of poverty that's cycling through our system? What is the problem? What is the issue? Well, today, I want to introduce someone who's really amazing. I met Wendell, and I was pleasantly surprised because we work in this community in Arkansas called the Lighthouse Institute, Lighthouse Academies. And a big part of what we're doing there is we're trying to get kids to college. We're trying to get them, and college for us doesn't mean 4-year college only. It could be 2-year college. It could be a trade school. It could be fashion school. It could be computer coding, boot camp, anything after high school. I just showed you the statistic. That 65% number, the difference between 32,000 and 53,000, that's 65% difference. That accounts for over $1 million. If you graduate from college, you'll make over $1 million over the life of. So why are our kids graduating from college? Well, Wendell and his team are addressing this problem. So we decided we're going to adopt Suchi, my company. We're going to go into Arkansas, go to the most underserved, the least the most underserved, underrepresented communities. People are 80, 90, 95% Black and brown. That's Black and Hispanic, some Native Americans. We're going to go in there, we're going to adopt these kids. There's almost 6,000 kids in the overall universe of Lighthouse Academies. We represent, we're going to be working, we're working now with about 1,100 of them, trying to get them all signed up and to get them through to college. Wendell is also an activist, a social activist. Many of you didn't know this, but during the Black Lives Matter, when we were out on the streets, I was out on the streets almost daily, kind of the placards and supporting the cause. Wendell was leading a lot of these things in Arkansas. He led an amazing march with almost 1,500 people in Arkansas, which is 80% white. I mean, he was out there doing what he needed to do. He's the leader of the 100 Black Men in America, which is an organization. It's a national organization that it's more than 100 people in the organization who are there to advance the cause of social and economic justice for Black people around the world, around our country. And he's really an inspiration because it shows that even in these underserved community, I'll tell you what, this community is about 26,000 average income. Most of these kids are on free and reduced lunch. Most of them are transient, which means dad ain't around. Sometimes mom ain't around. They live with grandma, they live with grandpa. I was in there. I've been to Arkansas about 4 times over the last 6 months to talk to these kids and their parents. You've seen me on social media engaging to try to learn the issues they have. Well, Wendell didn't have to do this. He had a career that could take him anywhere, politics, and he decided to come back into this community. He's the kind of guy after my heart. He decided to come back into this community and do whatever he could to advance the cause. So I want to introduce Wendell. Can we get Wendell in here? Hey, Wendell.
How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you. It's a pleasure to have you on here. I met you about 4 or 5 months ago after we started with working with Lighthouse, and you just struck me as the kind of person we need in our community, in our schools, in our public schools, our charter schools. We need you as you're director of innovation, but your job is basically everything that involves helping lift these kids out of where they are into a different place, a better life. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to where you are, and what brought you to working with these underserved communities when you didn't have to?
Sure. First off, thanks for having me. Wendell Scales, Deputy Director of Innovation at Arkansas Lighthouse Academies. We're an umbrella of the Lighthouse Academies arm, and we serve in Arkansas and Indiana. But my passion to serve comes from my upbringing in rural Arkansas. You spoke to opportunity gaps, you spoke to inequities, and when you're young, you don't know those terms, but I seen the difference between me growing up in a middle class family and my cousins and families and friends who didn't have both parents at the home. Some of those things you spoke to, and they say the Lord make room for your gifts, and throughout my journey, there have been opportunities, whether it be early in college where I worked with in the Office of Admissions, helping support families and scholars, doing mentorship early on in high school, and transitioning to higher ed where I was working on the grounds with the counselors in the high schools and the principals, and I'm visiting all of these different schools and seeing that, man, there are some big gaps, and I just wanted to do my best to fill them in my own way. And I took that career working in admissions, and opportunities opened themselves to come back on the K-12 side to kind of spearhead some things. So I took a role as the director of college career advising about 5 years ago with Lighthouse Academies there in Jacksonville, and really dedicated myself to serving underrepresented communities. It's my passion, creating access and equitable opportunities, whether it be from partnerships, scholarships, community efforts, which also led to opportunities with the 100 Black Men of Greater Little Rock. We are an affiliate of the 100 Black Men of America, and for nearly 6 years, I've been committed to, making sure that our Black and Brown communities have the support they need to move on. And, that's how we came to you all. Obviously, opportunity gaps are definitely a bigger, play. But, with the efforts that you and your team have been able to offer us, it creates opportunities to eliminate some of those barriers that you alluded to with your graphs. And, whether it be through 529s, whether it be through workshops, whether it be through collective impact with a variety of other partners, I'm really just committed to serve. Titles don't matter. Young people, they can read your heart. And I just want to make sure that young people in my space have opportunities, one, to advance their wealth, but also two, opportunities to go beyond with post-secondary opportunities. Because as some of my mentors have said, I want to put you in a space to take my job one day. And if we're not creating those opportunities for young people to take our job, or one, setting the expectation that you should be trying to take my job or replace me, then we're doing our young people and our community a disservice.
Absolutely. Now, Wendell, I just talked a little bit about how, many of our kids don't graduate, in these communities. And I want to talk about that in a second. But first, I want you to talk a little bit about the challenges these kids have. Many of us have been to high school. Many of us have been to K through 12. And, some of us had those challenges. Some of us didn't have those challenges. But it's a specific set of challenges that these kids have. Could you talk a little bit about those challenges?
Sure.
And how Lighthouse is helping?
Absolutely. In my roles, in my experiences in the space with Arkansas Lighthouse, what you learn is that it's the support systems that the communities we serve, we need. I can't provide training and resources on how to get from high school to college if there aren't support systems embedded from start to finish. You mentioned that a lot of our scholars living with a single parent and or a grandparent, and there are big gaps, whether it be in technology, whether it be with mom and dad or grandparents may be at work. So just thinking through the support services piece, one, to then put it in place. So when we do begin these different workshops, trainings, and providing these tools, we can see the shift from start to finish. I think that's so crucial in the communities we serve. A lot of these big ideals are meaningful, but if we don't understand what resources our communities lack, we can't go in there and try to address the resources or the need or filling them. So, even just with our work with you, it's one thing to offer college saving products, workshops, and tools, but if we're not intentional, as our superintendent, Ms. Noel, says, about what we're doing to make sure that they're aware and putting different tools and resources that they can touch and feel along the way, then we're doing more harm than good.
Supervisor Noel, we didn't mention her, but she's really honestly an inspiration. You and I just had a conversation about another charter school, that a friend of mine, somebody we know, has, and they have issues. They have a lot of problems, and I actually, discussed it with you because, from what I've seen, what we've seen, the charter schools you and Superintendent Noel operate are really well run. They're sort of really good schools that are created to really help students, and your experience, is really amazing. So tell me, what does Lighthouse, so Supervisor Noel, is really an inspiration also, I think, to all of us, anyone in the education space. What are the things that Lighthouse is doing specifically to address these issues for these communities?
Yeah, great. One, I think COVID, for all of the disparities and things that have, come to light, COVID allowed us to take some steps back to see what we weren't doing right. And I think as a leader, you got to self-reflect. And under the leadership of Superintendent Noel and our dedicated team comprised of Mr. Cosio and Ms. Cuevas and our wonderful principals and support staff, we've been able to readdress what we believe will push us forward, whether it be acknowledging that we have some cultural competency pieces. We launched the first of its kind social justice program that'll roll out in the fall. We, of course, have connected with you, Suchi, to provide post-secondary opportunities and workshops and collaborative opportunities to, get them thinking about life beyond the walls and beyond the communities that they exist in. And 3, just finding a dedicated staff of educators and building leaders who are committed to this cause. Being an educator is a full-time job. I know it's summer, but we think about these young people day in and day out, and it starts at the top, but it has to be connected all the way through. It just can't be a hierarchy where I tell you what I need to do. It needs to be a committed effort where everybody can do it together. And I think by the way of implementation of these cultural competencies in the work that we're doing with you all, in that dedicated support staff in the buildings, I'm super excited about what the fall is what we hold in the fall. I mean, I think I'm super excited. I look forward to a lot of enthusiasm in our leadership. We will be on site. I was looking at we were one of the only states to still offer on-site learning during COVID. We will be completely on site. So I know that'll also help kind of trim some of those gaps, because we're going to put those young people back in school, back in first time. They're going to get real instruction, not virtual instruction. And it's going to be a committed effort with a talented group of people there in our communities that we serve.
Yeah, it's interesting. You keep saying the word support, and I'll tell you a conversation I had 2 days ago with actually a good friend, who owns. He's a minority owner of a pro athlete, a basketball team, an NBA team. And we had a good conversation about some of the things he and his team, when I say team, not the basketball team, but his own, universe of friends, wealthy friends are doing. And what he kept talking about was that issue of support. You need to have the social support. Some of these kids go home and they don't get that support. Sometimes it's grandma that's taking care of these kids. Sometimes it's a single mom who's struggling. She has to go to work every day. She's trying really hard to get her kids, to give her kids the what they need in life. But maybe she can't afford to buy, as much, to buy all the good things they need. Yeah. And in many cases, she's not as available because she has to work. Sometimes she has 2 jobs. She has 2 or 3 or 4 kids. Yeah. And so those kids, they come back from school. They need a support system after school to keep them away from gangs, away from the bad people. They also have some of these kids are hungry. So being able to provide a support system where they can eat, you can't teach a kid unless they eat. Sometimes having kids who may have tried drugs who want to get off of it, or kids who want to stay away from drugs. They need the support system to teach them how to avoid it and how to say no, so, and then a support system to teach them the value of education, the financial literacy. So it's really a communal support. And I'm all in, because the more I learn, the more I realize it's a concerted effort. We have, I talked last, for those who follow me on social media, I talked last week about the Tulsa Massacre, and how a lot of people, 300 people and basically 10,000 who were made homeless could have basically been worth, with 10% growth, that 33 million could have been worth about 400 billion. We could have had double the wealth we have in our communities now. But the one thing those people, those men and women, the Black Wall Street taught us, is that you got to take care of yourself. You have to be inclusive and take care of yourselves. If you don't, who's going to do that for you? And so the ability of us to support each other and create that support system, whether it's social, whether it's criminal justice, whether it's economic. And so a big part of what we're doing at Suchi is the educational and the financial literacy side, and so I want to kind of segue a little bit into our relationship, into how we met. When we met, you were looking for partners to help basically increase the percentage of give access to kids to go to college and make it more affordable. Right. And so we met, we had a really good discussion with you and me and Emma and Principal Noel, and we decided, we want to do this, and we jumped in. So we've been working together now for a few months. We've held 5 events, activation events. Yeah. We're getting hundreds and hundreds of kids signed up for college. We're motivating them. We're giving them financial literacy. We're creating curriculums over the summer. Anything that will help break these kids out of this cycle they're in. Yeah. I want you to talk a little bit about what the partnership has done over the last 3 months, sure, both from a Lighthouse perspective in terms of helping you create that support system, and also talk a little bit about how those kids, what are they, what's the benefit to them?
Sure. Yeah. I think obviously the glaring opportunity, in many communities is the financial literacy piece. And I believe strongly that if you can present opportunities where you can provide access and opportunity, whether it be through financial literacy, college savings, workshops, and what have you, then you empower your young people that you serve to see greater and to want to get beyond Arkansas in some sense of the word, whether it be for education, whether it be for a career. So when we struck up this partnership, to me, it was a no-brainer because there are a lot of times where you feel like you have to wait, and everything felt right. You all have a spirit of coming in and supporting, and y'all did that by adopting us, which we're so thankful for. But I think the one thing that is glaring for us is it allows us to reset academic expectations. When you can tell the story up to a young scholar that there will be a scholarship available for you by way of these academic metrics if you do this, this, and this, or we're going to create activation opportunities where families, friends, teachers can gift you funding towards post-secondary opportunities. That's a different narrative for a young person, a young scholar, than what they see every day. And it's a testament. We have something, that we, through our thought process, we have the Suchi, ALA Suchi Parent Pledge. And that's definitely going to be a big driver for us when our doors open in the fall. But it's basically showing, letting our parents commit. And it's showing our scholars that your parents are in this with you as well. So this Suchi Parent Pledge is essentially me as a parent. I recognize that Arkansas Lighthouse Academies, in partnership with Suchi, is providing resources and workshops to push my kid to and through college. And that pledge, I think it empowers young people because they get to hold it. They get to take the picture. It'll be plastered through the walls in our buildings. And one thing we know, young people are so impressionable, right? But for them to see their very own parent pledge with their parent's signature and their name, that is empowering. And it creates the narrative that, hey, I have support that we talked about earlier, and I have purpose. And with support and purpose, young people can be whatever they want to be. I think for us, that's the exciting piece, because I know we're just scratching the surface of what our relationship can be with Suchi and Arkansas Lighthouse, particularly. But I know that the scholarship piece will definitely be very, very important. I mean, you know, we awarded our first ALA Suchi Leader of the Pack this year. Miss Candace McDonald was a very deserving scholar of this award. And I know when they can see a prize at the end or a means to an end to help support, we're not saying we're going to break the bank, but if we can offer some resources to pay for books, if we can offer some resources to provide, some books, a laptop, anything deemed necessary to advance, you to your college of your choice or vocation or whatever, then I think we're doing our job. And I think we are being seen as thought leaders in that as well. So one, thank you all for stepping up. And also for believing in us, that we could help push your mission and your charge. And I know big picture, as we move forward, we will surely trim the fat on that debt, that student debt that young people are accruing every year. So thank you in that regard.
It's a pleasure. And I tell you, Wendell, I'll explain for the viewers what he meant by the pledge. It's one thing to engage kids, right? It's one thing to engage those kids and to teach them about education, open up a college fund, but it's another thing to engage the parents. It's important to engage the parents because the kid goes back home to the parent. And if the parent is not supportive, you don't get the results you need. So what we're doing is, yes, we're starting with the kid, right? We're getting the kid, a college fund. We're putting in our money. Suchi is putting in some of its own seed capital. And then we're going out to our friends and family and saying, look, this kid, their parents may not be able to afford, to do this by themselves. Maybe we should help them. We're also teaching the parents, about this thing called crowdfunding, how they can actually give gifts, when you have a birthday or have a holiday. Instead of giving toys to that kid, why not put that money into a college plan and get the best gift money can buy in education? Because that money grows. It's invested in a 529 that's tax efficient. And that actually grows, based on, the stocks and bonds that you pick, the investments that you pick. Right. But, what the pledge is the first step in engaging the parents, right? So we've set up the fund, or we're setting up the funds. We're educating. I've been to the schools, we've talked to the kids. We've had activations. We've had parties. So the first step was we've had a bunch of parties and events, to activation events with lots of food, to, lots of entertainment, music, to engage the parents. So they come, they know who we are. And then we've gotten them, pretty much all of them, to make a pledge. And the pledge is, I will enroll my kid in a college plan or in an after-school plan. And many of the parents are like, sure. Once you make that pledge, we can always point to that pledge and say, hey, you last year you said you were committed to doing it. And so we're going to now go back to the parents and say, okay, we have your kids on track. And we have your kids, the support system's been created. We're adding the educational component. We're going to help them fund the plans. We need you to do your part, though. I know you don't make a lot of money, but you need to do your part. You need to put some of your money in there. I don't care what it is, $5, $2, $15, $250. You got to put some of your money in there. Mm-hmm. In addition, you have to, engage your friends and family, birthdays, holidays, toys and things. But we also want to teach the parents themselves a little bit about financial literacy. The parents don't know much about, I think we may have do we have a break? Okay, there you go. The parents, I thought I only saw my cell phone there. I thought you'd left or something. So teaching the parents about budgeting, insurance, finances, spending less than you make, and then also teaching them about the value of education. Some of these parents are young parents, 20s, 30s. They can go back to school. The value of an education. They can get student loans. They can get grants, to stop using check cashing, pawn stores, and places like that to use banks, online banks that give you interest. Some of the very, very basics, credit, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. So getting that pledge from the parents is very important. And also getting the parents to recognize that basically they have a chance, not just for them, but also for their child, to lift that child out of poverty or wherever they are. Now, Wendell, tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you face, both in terms of building that community, that support system, and also about getting these kids to graduate. The graduation rates, for our kids are not very good. I just showed that our kids graduate at a rate that's 11% less than whites from high school. That's 45,000 of our children are not graduating.
Yeah.
Actually, that's more than 90%. That's actually 90,000, 45,000 more, but it's really 90,000, kids who are not graduating. So I kind of miss, how do we change that?
Yeah, well, that's right up my alley there. I think for us, it is we focus on a specific set of college preparation opportunities. We have taken a holistic approach to how we support our scholars. Since 2016, we've had a 97% graduation rate, a 95% acceptance rate, and nearly 20 million in scholarships awarded. We value small numbers. Like we don't have huge classes. Our average class is probably 55. But it creates that one-on-one engagement where when you do the workshops and the additional training, that support is there. We're providing, financial aid and financial literacy training to parents and students. We're doing scholarship workshops. We're bringing in community stakeholders who can also tell the why. That also enhances the work that we're doing with you. So I think on our end, in our space, we've carved out a niche that we believe works to support our scholars. I would tell you the median income of the families we support is around $23,000. So it is if we don't provide the necessary tools and resources, then where are they going to get them from? So that's kind of our charge. And then, for the young people who aren't going, to the four-year institution, we say, hey, that's okay. We're creating portfolios for them, that has everything they need to be work ready, because we get it. Everybody is not ready to go, to the 2-year or the 4-year, but you can be workforce ready as well. And we know there are a wide variety of opportunities where you can still get continuing ed funding. So we believe exposure is very important. So we try to create as many of those opportunities on the front end. And I think even with the work with you and Suchi is to show a kindergarten student that they have, that's their first relationship with money. It's almost like their first in retirement fund. If we can tell them, hey, you're empowered to manage your very first retirement fund at kindergarten, what type of narrative will they be when they become professionals, right? It won't be, oh, I'm not used to this. It won't be, I've never heard of this. It won't be that, because for 12 to 13 years, they've had it. So to me, that's the amazing piece. We get to empower on the front end. We don't have to wait to 9th grade now, 10th grade. We got all of them, K-12, who can be impacted by the work that we're doing. And I think that is what is exciting to me. We're charged with empowering and creating more financial leaders for the next generation.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, you mentioned a fifth grader getting a college plan and knowing they have somebody who cares enough about them to set up a plan that'll get them to college. Guess what the numbers are? For a child in the underserved community who gets a college fund, it makes them 3 times more likely to go to college. 3 times, which means 300%. If there's one child, it turns that into 3. When they get the financial literacy and the support, it makes it 7 times more likely to go to college.
Wow.
Can you imagine turning that each child into 7? Do you imagine what this, and that's what we're doing here. That's our objective, is to turn a whole generation. Our goal is 3 million, right? We want to take these 3 million kids who are from underserved communities. We want to lift them up, get them to college so they can start making, because studies show if you make $1 million more, right? You make $1 million more if you go to college. And I just showed the statistic on that. You actually make 65% more every year. And so I want to actually, Wendell, I mentioned 3, the Brookings Institute had these 3 things about how you can avoid, you may have heard earlier. I want to actually add to that a little bit and get the thought, get your thoughts on some of these things. So the Brookings Institute basically said, look, if you have a kid and you want them to stay out of poverty, there's 3 things. They're easy for people who are not in poverty. But for people who are in poverty, they actually recognize there's a challenge. One is they need to graduate from high school. One is they need to get a full-time job. And then the third is wait till they're 21 to get married and have children so they can have the 2-income family support. So no more teen pregnancies. But that's not all, though. There's some other ways to break out of this cycle of poverty. One of those ways is to eliminate the victim mentality. Many of us have been victimized. We know it, right? Whether it's in Africa or in America, many of us have been victimized, right? But we can't be held back by that victim mentality. Many of us look at, whether it's racism, we've all been confronted. Many of you know my own stories about racism that I've confronted through my life, right? But I can't let that hold me back because I got to play the game. If I don't play the game, how am I going to win? I can't just stay outside. And so that overarching skepticism about, the system is rigged. So what? It is rigged. But let me tell you something else. In Nigeria, there's 180 million, they're Black people down there. They just took away Twitter, right? That system is rigged too, and so you can't not participate, and again, one of those things where there's overarching skepticism, is this, COVID vaccination hesitancy. I was looking at the numbers and we're still lagging behind. The Blacks are still lagging behind because we're hesitant, because we don't trust the system. And in the same way, because of that, many of us are dying. The rate of death, has been staggering. I know it's a lot better now. So that having that positive mentality, is something that's also very, 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 very important for us to lift ourselves out of that cycle. And then surrounding ourselves with supportive people. I had this thing I talked about last week about this thing called the crab mentality. And in many, many ways, we have a ready-made support system in our friends and family, but at the same time, some of those friends and family are the ones who actually hold us back, not because they, like the crabs, not because they're bad people, but in many cases, they also want to be lifted up. So they hold on to us so we can lift them up, but we can't lift everybody up ourselves, So it's important for us to surround ourselves with people. There's a saying where you are the average of your friends. So if you have 10 friends, 1 through 10, you're number 5. So if you have very, very poor people, negative people, you're poor negative. If you have wealthy, well-to-do, educated, intelligent people who are doing things, you're one of those educated, smart, intelligent people making things happen. So how do you, and then the third part, which I actually want you to comment on, is the issue of role models. They've been demonstrated, many of our kids these days focus more on the role models they see on TV, the celebrities, the basketball players and athletes, and the rappers, the musicians, and only a small, tiny percentage of people will ever break through to those. And I talked last week about how there's doctors, lawyers, engineers, smart people who are doing very well, who are Black and brown. And so how do you expose these kids to role models, knowing the impact, the positive impact role models have on their lives?
Yeah, yeah. Well, in my community role, as I serve as the vice president of the 100 Black Men of Greater Little Rock, we have a 8-week annual, we call it our Smart Academy, basically where we take a group of young men and we create some exposure pieces, and mentorship is the goal ultimately. Our saying is what they see is what they'll be. So we try to create as many meaningful opportunities where we're putting them and taking them beyond the borders of their neighborhoods. And I would say that even at Arkansas Lighthouse Academies, we created opportunities where even now, as we talk right now, you're working with us on a project for our kindergarten through first graders, where we're creating. They will be a part of your network. They may not know that yet, but we're showing them people like you, deans of colleges. In my experience, the biggest lesson that I've learned is that I can't do this by myself. And as a mentor who mentors, I want my network to be an extension of their network. So when I introduce them to a David at FSO, I will then pull them to a side and say, hey, he is a part of your network now. So because he's a part of your network now, you should never think that you can ask questions, get, address needs, try to lean in on opportunities he may have, because that's how I got in, that's how doors open for me. In more times than none, we know this to be true. People like us are looking for young people to step up, but you gotta create opportunities. Students, they want to be told what to do. They want to be empowered, but you gotta put them in the space, and they will step up. And that's my belief. I have a group of young people now. I've been in the college access, college admission space for about a decade now, and I have a group, and I always like to laugh. I have a group of young people who are now college graduates, and we talk, sometimes on a bi-weekly, monthly basis, and they took it to heart when I said, hey, one day I'm gonna need you more than you need me. And I have some in medical school. I have some who work in politics. I have some who are engineers. And one of my favorite sayings is, one day my relationship will transform from a Mr. Scales and John Doe to a Wendell and a John Doe, because we will be on the same playing field, and we will be out here in the community supporting and serving, and we're going to need each other. So, those are my thoughts and feedback about creating opportunities for young people to step up and lead. Essentially, a role model should show a young person how to lead, but they have to do that by example.
Wendell, I want to say thank you so much. And I tell you, for the viewers, for those of you who are watching, this is a mission, right? We know the facts. We are behind in America. Black and brown people, we're behind in every way, except intelligence, hardworking, and smart. We're just as intelligent, we're just as hardworking, and we're just as smart. We're behind in everything. Our net worth is 15% what whites are. Whites is. We make 40% less. Our kids are graduating 10 to 11% less. Our kids have more teen pregnancies. Our kids are, go to jail more. Our kids don't have a lot more support. 70% of our kids are born out of wedlock. We know we have a lot of issues, right? And to address those issues, there's no one step, there's no one thing, there's no one magic bullet. It involves us all coming together, us as a community coming together, the politicians, the economists, the wealth managers, the social scientists, the educators, the philosophers, the sociologists, the social justice, folks coming together, putting our hearts together and asking the question, what is my role? What can I do today to impact? So if you're on your couch and you're watching this, We are reaching out to you. We need your help. Now, we don't want money, or we need your time, we need your effort, we need your brains, right? We need you to come join us in this effort. We have a whole generation of us that have been left behind in America. A whole generation. We have been left behind. Mm-hmm. Black people, for the most part, there's some wealthy Black people. I'm one of those. I thank God. I'm well-to-do. I thank God. But for everyone Adifeso, for everyone Robert F. Smith, or for everyone Oprah Winfrey or Jay-Z, there's 1,000 who haven't been able to make it out. They're not less smart than Jay-Z. They're not less smart than Robert F. Smith. They're not less hardworking than David Adifeso. They just don't have the path. They don't have a clear path and the opportunity. And that involves a support system. We need you, whatever your skill is, whatever you're able to do. If you're an educator, if you have money, if you have ideas, if you can teach, if you can think, if you can, whatever it is, we need your help. And if you're one of those people who needs help, and you have young children, or you're trying to break out, we can help you. We can really help you. We can help, we can come join us and let's have that conversation. So to my friends, are there any final thoughts? Wendell, Alex, is there anything else you would like us to do over here? Oh, by the way, there's one thing I want you to know. We built I was inspired by the cohesiveness of the Black Wall Street. And I was inspired that here was Black and brown people helping each other in a community to lift each other, not non-exclusive. Anyone can join us, all the races and everything, but this is really to help this. And so what I did was I created a whole community sheet on my Instagram page, david.adifeso. If you click on the link, you can actually put your name, put your email, put what you do for a living, and I've committed to supporting those people who put their name. So if I need a hair guy and there's a hair person there, I'm there in LA, I'll call them. If there's a wealth manager there and I need insurance and somebody sells insurance, I'll buy insurance from them. If there's somebody there who's a teacher or who's an educator or an advocate and they teach math and I'll call them first. And so I want to help, so that's my own small way. And a lot of things that we're doing to help build this community to actually help each other. So what are I see a little comment over here. It says, money is the root of all evil. Wealth means nothing. There's a song. There's a song that I like. It's by one of my favorite artists. It's called Adekunle Gold. And he said, he's a Nigerian artist. He said, money doesn't make you happy, which is true. I know from experience, which is true. But it can buy you nice things while you're sad. Without money is sort of a baseline. Without money, the chances are you're going to be struggling. Without a certain level of money, without that middle class, you at least have to be middle class, which is what, $69,000 for a family of four. You at least have to make the basic. Once you make the basic and you can afford food, I know you don't like money. What is that? Love is life. I know you don't like money at all, and we appreciate that you don't like money, but at least you have to eat. Well, it takes money to eat. You want to rent a house for the rest of your life. You want to buy your own home, right? You need money to buy a home. You need money to be able to send your kid to college. College is very expensive. So while money itself is not the root of all evil, the Bible says, not money, the love of money. That's when money becomes your king. When money becomes the only thing you're focused on. When money becomes your path to happiness. Based upon that song, money doesn't make you happy. It won't make you happy. It will not make you happy. I've been a millionaire for 20 years, and I have not been happy for 20 years. As a matter of fact, I'm happy now, but there was a time I was miserable 9 months ago, and I was rich. So money doesn't make you happy. The love of money is the root of all evil. Money itself could be a good thing, and I would encourage you to aspire. If you can, make money, but use what you use the money for that matters. Use the money. When you use money to help people, and to lift up your community, and to lift up people who don't have, you walk around the street, you see that homeless person, you give them $10, you buy him lunch. When you see that kid who needs to go to school and they can't afford books, you buy him a book. That's what money is for. So thank you for your comment. And Wendell, any last thoughts?
I think, just as I was looking at the chat, somebody asked Yvonne, how can we be mentors for the future generation? I would just say, if you look at your area, find a Boys and Girls Club, find a school, find community organizations, and if you're passionate about something, if you have a skill that you would like to share for young people, those are, you spend time. Money is one thing, but time is another. And a lot of times educators and people who are our leaders, put in a lot of sweat equity. And the payoff is you're pouring into someone. So the more you pour into that person, the payoff will be you're creating a better, well-rounded young person who has a variety of skills and will be able to take them to baton and move it a little further than we could with what we poured into them. So those are my takes on preparing and being a mentor to the next generation.
Let me shed some light in closing on this thing called mentoring, right? Statistics show that when you help someone, not only do they benefit and you benefit, but also onlookers. There was a study which was done, which demonstrated that. So for example, if you're walking down the street and you see a young lady, an old woman who's, trying to cross the street, or her bags fell, you pick up her bags for her, you hand them to her, you hold her hand, you walk her across the street, you give her back the bag, you say, she says thank you, and she walks away. She gets a hit of this thing called dopamine in her brain. It's the drug way that makes you feel good. You who helped her also get a hit of dopamine. And the onlooker, the person who's watching you, gets a hit of dopamine. So the next time somebody falls, you're a good person, right? You'll help. The onlooker who saw you help that lady now wants, they want to feel that dopamine they felt when they saw you. So the next time they see somebody fall, they'll pick that person up in order to get that same dopamine hit. So keep in mind that doing good and helping, whether it's been mentoring or giving your time, giving your money, giving your resources, it has monumental benefits that are expansive, that it's not just you or that person, it's people watching, and then it's the impact on the lives of those people who you actually help, and many, many more people. So Wendell, thank you so much for participating. You're our first guest, right? On this season. So then this is 14, and this was so much fun. I think we're going to bring a lot more guests on. But thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. I appreciate your efforts with us, and I look forward to the progress to eliminating these barriers for our young people in our community. So thank you again.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Wendell. Talk to you soon. For viewers, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. We look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.